What's going on, fellow anglers? Welcome back to the Submission Fishing Podcast. Glad you can join us. We've got a good guest for you guys today. We got Brett from Fishbites coming on, and his really cool product out here in Florida. He's going to share with us. It's pretty cool stuff. Me and Kevin been using it a lot when we go offshore and everything. So I'm really excited to talk to him. And we got some cool stories and really some cross-pollination. I know some of you, a lot of our audience out here, you guys are from, California, but this is it's not a Florida specific product. It's, if you guys like to catch fish, this is some good stuff. I've got some interesting anecdotes to share with you guys on how I'm using them with the jigs and all that stuff. And I'm really excited, and it should be a good show. Without further ado, Brett, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having us on.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Burford.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just didn't want to.
I
didn't want to make sure it was like French or something,
No. Yeah.
Cool. So, Brett, tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are and what you doing out here.
Yep. Like you said, my name's Brett. I work for Fishbites. For those of you guys don't know, we're a scented bait company, all synthetic scents. We've got everything from shrimp to crab to sand flea or sand crabs, as you guys refer them to out west. Squid, bloodworm. We got a whole bunch of different scents. And I've been working for the company for about 7 years now. The Fishbites itself has been around since 2000, and the inventor of Fishbites, Dr. William Carr, was the grandfather of my best friend growing up. So I've known the family for years, and he, for as long as I've known these guys, decades, he's been tinkering around with different kind of fishing baits, scented fishing baits, and finally came onto one that hit, and the rest has been history. Yeah,
I saw like somebody tagged me in, like, it was like this video. It was like an old video where I don't know if it came from your guys' page or something, how he was, how he was going through the lab and like,
right. And
fish eat stuff that's not, they eat a synthetic bait that's not. It was really cool. It was like, just a few minutes long, but it was like really fascinating.
Yeah, that's it's called Inventing Fishbites on YouTube. If you just type that in, you can catch that video. But as you said, it's him in the lab in the 80s trying to figure out how to get these fish to hit on a certain synthetic scent. So the story kind of goes, when he was, 7, 8 years old, he was out getting oysters with his dad. And he steps on an oyster, cuts his foot, and he immediately sees all these microorganisms running up to the blood coming out of his foot.
Oh, wow.
And he started thinking right there, what is in my blood that these fish are attracted to? And he later found out in life there's certain kind of chemicals that he could mimic in a synthetic formula. Dr. Carr is all about conservation. So he wanted to find a way where he could make a scented bait without taking anything out of the ocean. Anybody can go out there and grind up some fishery products and make a scent out of biological material that will eventually dissipate the longer it sits in the bag. So by using a synthetic, it lasts forever. So we get questions all the time about our product. Does it expire? The scent will never expire. It'll always be there. It can lose some color after it sits there and becomes stiff and rigid, but the scent of the product is still there. And I've caught fish on baits that are 5, 6, 7 years old. No problem. Wow. But it's very interesting. Inventing Fishbites on YouTube. Take a look at that, because it'll kind of really tell you more about the product than I'll ever be able to tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out. I didn't know it was an actual YouTube thing. I think I just saw like a little reel on Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
That was pretty fascinating, but I'll go check out that YouTube.
It's like you said, it's only a couple minutes long, but it's very informative. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's freaking awesome. Yeah, so I'll just give a little bit of some backstory on like how I met. So you guys know I grew up in California, lived there. If you guys listen to the show, you know that obviously I'm a jig maker. I make slow pitch jigs and stuff like that. So anyways, a couple years ago, I bought a house in St. Augustine, and it was sort of like, it was just like mine and my wife's vacation house or second home. And we've been going out there for a couple years. And the first, so maybe like 2 years ago, we went out there and we're at, I think it was like West Marine, and we saw like the Fishbite stuff there. And my wife, this is like her claim to fame. She thinks like she claims she was the one that like got me to buy it, right? And when I was looking at the package, and what got my eye was that it was made in St. Augustine, Florida, and I was like, oh, I'm here in St. Augustine. I just thought it was really cool, like kind of local stuff. And so I ended up buying a pack. I didn't even end up get to use it here because it was, as I learned in Florida, the weather and the wind and the rain is like a real thing that changes and prevents fishing. Being a California guy, it was like, you don't get much weather in California. Usually you want to go fish, you just go fish. It's not a big deal, but you got to read charts out here. And then we went back to California, and then I had a booth at the PCS show, which is, Pacific Coast Sports Show, which is a really good show. It's probably like the biggest, becoming like the most popular show out on the West Coast there in California. And that's why I saw you guys there. You guys had a booth.
Yeah.
That's why I said, oh, hey, what's up? I just told my little story real quick. I was like, I got a place in St. Augustine. How you guys doing? And the rest was like, and then you told me, next time you're in St. Augustine, hit me up. And last time I was there and just dropped in, unannounced visitor. I just said, hey, is Brett here? Yeah, it was cool. We got to talk to you a little bit and saw the little factory real quick. And so you guys are making them in St. Augustine. And
that's right. We make everything right there. Crazy. We started out, or I say Dr. Carr and our owner, CEO, Terry, started out in a closet, essentially making this stuff. And I should have been a little bit more prepared to have some baits to show everybody. And if we want to pause and do that at some point, we can. But our initial baits, there you go,
I got the bait,
look like a piece of bubble gum. And at the beginning, all we had was just a white color. So we're Dr. Carr and Terry are going around trying to sell this stuff to these bait shops and essentially getting laughed out of the shops because it looks like nothing anybody's ever caught fish on. So it took a while to get it going, but they eventually got there. And, it wasn't until about 3 years later, we had the bright idea to come out with some colors, and that really took off. Around 2006, they came out with a bloodworm scent, which just went crazy up in North Carolina, the Northeast up there. And we've just been pumping it out since then. We've gotten into the molded baits. We've got paddle tails, curly tails, all that good stuff. Interesting part about those swim baits that we have is they are actually 100% biodegradable. The material we use is 100% biodegradable. There's no plastics, PVCs, or rubbers in those. And what that allows us to do is really fully impregnate that bait with scent. So a lot of scented baits you see out there will just be coated in the scent. And a lot of times that hits the water, it doesn't last very long. But the longer our swim baits sit in that water, that scent is just pouring out of there. And it's not a bait that you have to re-soak or leave in a jar. The scent is there, it's ready to go, and they're actually very durable and closer to a plastic bait than some of these other soft baits that get ripped apart after just a couple bites. So we're really excited about those products. We're expanding on those. We've got some bigger baits coming out, some big 6-inch grubs. Oh, wow. And they've been really hot up in the Northeast. And we're trying to make our way out to California. It's been a little bit of a struggle. You guys have such a different fishery out there. And as you know, surf fishing is a big part of our business. The durability of our product, our cut baits, have really changed the game out there. When you're throwing, for us here in Florida, we're throwing that out 100 yards. And we've got 3 or 4 set rigs out there. So if you get one bite on those, you've got to reel that thing back in. If you're using a sand flea or a piece of dead shrimp, something like that, you've got to rebait. So a lot of people will start out using our product in conjunction with a sand flea or a piece of dead shrimp, something like that, or blue crab. And a lot of people will learn sometimes, and a lot of times when the fish are there, all you need is fish bites to go out there. You spend less time rebaiting, you spend less time reeling your rigs in after getting a bite. You let it sit there 45 minutes to an hour, you're going to have bait on the hook, and you're never fishing on credit. So it's really been a benefit to the surf guys. But what I learned out in California is you guys fish the surf completely different than we do. A lot of time it's one rod and you're moving up and down the beach. And I've fortunately got to witness that firsthand because I couldn't believe it. I said, guys, just leave your bait out there. They're going to come to you. But I fished with Ben Hervey Murray, American Sea Fishing. I think he's out of Huntington Beach over there. And he showed me all about it. And you guys got these perch that are just 5 feet away from you, sitting right there. And you just kind of drag your bait back in there on a Carolina rig. And it was an interesting concept because like I said, we got 12, 13 foot rods. We're throwing it as far as we can, and we're just letting it sit there. So what we've learned with California that we may need to look into some more of the offshore areas and some of these bigger swim baits and some of our bigger cut baits, like our squid baits, are a little bit more effective. So we're going to try to target some different areas out there. And because once our dang gets going and once people build confidence in using this product, there's nothing that can be said about it. About 2.5, 3 years ago, we sent our first package out to New Zealand to this guy, Gary Kimsley, who's been in the business a long time. Fast forward 3 years later, we've got over 100 stores out in New Zealand. So it really is a universal product. It works everywhere. We sent 5,000 bags out to the Middle East about a month ago. So it's starting to get out there, and we're really trying to go worldwide with this stuff right now.
Yeah, man, that's so awesome. It's like you're saying, it's the surf fishing. Like since I've lived here in Florida, surf fishing is like is big out here in Florida. It's like you got the pompano and different fish come in. Mm-hmm. And I think the water's lower, but it's a pretty niche thing in California. There's Benji Kim is a buddy of mine, and he's like one of the premier surf fisherman guys out there on like YouTube and Instagram. And and his channel's so big because he's like just one of the few people that do it, and everybody's kind of intrigued by it, but it's definitely not as easy. And like you're saying, everybody's using 6-7 foot rods and just walking up and down the beach, just casting artificials, because what's interesting is you think the fish bites would do really well out there just because live bait, people don't really fish bait in California for a couple reasons. Is it's just not accessible. Nets are illegal. So you can't net fish out there. You cannot cast nets. So
really, I did not know that.
Yeah, absolutely no nets allowed. So access to bait, most California fishermen are always fishing artificials. Bait is really hard to come by unless you're digging up sand fleas. Some people pump for like the ghost shrimp. Honestly,
that's become a huge thing over here. Yeah. And interesting, you bring up ghost shrimp. Just last week, we introduced our first iteration of a ghost shrimp scent.
I saw that. So
we still have some working to do on that. We're still waiting for some analysis back from the lab. Fortunately, Dr. Carr's partner, Bill Buzzy, is still around, so he's helping us. When we do want to come up with a new scent, we can send it off to him, and he knows exactly what Dr. Carr was looking for. But yeah, to your point about surf fishing be a little bit more niche out here, as you said, it's huge out here, and it's really blown up even more so in just the last 5 years, and especially through COVID, because it's something anybody can go do. You don't have to have, $50,000 to go buy a new boat. You can buy a couple 10, 12 foot rods from Walmart. And go out there and catch fish. So this year, you've probably seen we come out with our surf fishing tournament series called the Shoreline Showdown, and it consists of 5 tournaments. We had 2 in the spring, 2 in the fall, and then the 5th tournament is an invite-only tournament. So the top 50 anglers who have acquired points through all these 4 tournaments will get invited to the championship. And each one of these tournaments is paying out $15,000 cash, which is kind of unheard of in the surf fishing world. They're usually smaller type tournaments deal, but we're really trying to bring awareness to this side of the industry because, again, it's something everybody can do. And, worst case scenario, you're sitting on the beach, having a drink, watching a few rods and hoping one bends. If not, you still had a good day, So it's a lot of fun.
That's what my boy Benji was saying. He made a good point because he was like, he used to do like guided tours and stuff, but he was saying that you're your own captain, you get to walk the beach, you find your own place. You're not having to rely on getting in a boat or somebody else putting you on the fish. It's definitely a really interesting thing.
And there is, there's tons to learn with knowing what to look for, looking for run outs and that kind of thing. And trying to get to that second bar if you can. And every beach is a little bit different. St. Augustine through Crescent, which you're probably familiar with, are low impact beaches. So those are great beaches to fish at low tide. The higher impact beaches, you have a lot of water up front. You want to fish those high tide, and that's more Volano Beach, if you're familiar with that, or down to Flagler, it's a little bit further south of you. But even with that said, I mean, in the spring and the fall, pretty much anybody can go out there. If you can throw it 30 yards, you're going to get into the whiting. You know, if you want to target pompano, a lot of the times you got to get it out a little bit further, but it does not take long to learn to throw it 100 yards. I mean, there's really not much to it. We got a lot of guys in the area that are always giving seminars and casting lessons. In fact, we got one coming up next week at the Connect Church in Jacksonville, where we're doing a casting demonstration, and we're going to have probably 50, 60 people out there who may have never casted before that will be throwing it 100 yards before they leave that day.
Man, that's so awesome. So what is the, you know, it's funny. We did, went to like a Salt Strong meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking, I think her name was Kathy. She does like,
Kathy Sanders, fishing girl.
Yeah. She does, charters, surf fishing charters out of St. Augustine. And she was the guest there. And she was talking about the low impact and high impact beaches. And that was a term I had never heard before. Like that wasn't, and now I've heard that a couple of times, but even in California, I don't think that was a terminology. Can you explain that a little bit? Like what is a high impact? And what is a low impact?
So you've been to Crescent Beach, St. Augustine Beach, where, you know, here, and I don't know how it is in California, but our tides can move in a matter of 6 hours, 100 or 200 yards on a low impact beach, where you're constantly moving those sand spikes as that water flows out. On a higher impact beach, that water is not moving as far. But on a higher impact beach, you got a lot of water right in front of you, a lot of depth right in front of you. So you don't really have to cast as far a lot of the times at those high impact beaches. But it's what you want to know where you're going so you can determine what tide you want to fish. So like I said, high impact beach, you're fishing high tide majority of the time. Low impact beach, that low tide will allow you to get to that second bar out there where there's pompano are really running. You can't reach that bar at high tide because, as I said, that water's moving, you know, up to 100 yards. So when that water all flushes out, you can get to that second bar and get on those pompano.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, it's the same thing out there. California's got like some beaches where just when the tide goes out, it's still like turns into mud almost. You know, there's spots where it just recedes and it's not even sand anymore. And then other beaches where it's like it's very, you know, it doesn't recede so much. But it's just again the different geography. Like there's the beaches out in California, the sand it's all granite, it's gravel, it's ground up gravel. Like out here, it's seashells, right? Like it's
there's if you again in St. Augustine, if you get there, we have some whiter sand there. Now you get into Flagler Beach, it's all crushed up coquina shells. It's almost an orange. I don't know if you've been down there, but it can change. And Volano's a little bit different as well. And if you get down to Southeast Florida, it's got completely different sand. You get on the Gulf Coast and it's just beautiful, white, fluffy sand. I mean, we have some of the most beautiful beaches in the world along our Gulf Coast in the Florida Panhandle, which is where we were this last weekend for the Shoreline Showdown Tournament Series I was telling you about, which was a really good turnout. We had a good time up there, but it's beautiful fishing over there. If you get a chance to go, you'll want to go check it out.
Yeah. And because that's just like, it's a huge difference out there, you know, like with the sandbars. So I know California, it's got, like I said, it's all granite. There's no shells. The shells don't make up the sand. And there's some beaches where you can't even walk on because it's rocks. Like it's literally just like, like stones. Like you can't go barefoot. It'll just brutalize your feet. Wow. And it's crazy because there's actual like structure in the surf. Like there's sometimes just rocks and boulders. And I know
we have some of that here.
You're going to get snagged. There's places you can't even fish, you know, without getting snagged.
Yeah, we have a stretch from really south St. Johns County to north Flagler County where it's unfishable. There's just rocks everywhere. And you're just ended up losing $10 worth of rigs on every cast.
Yeah. That's what's been nice about here is like, because especially when I go, I shouldn't say I fish both inshore and offshore equally, but I tend to do a little more offshore stuff lately. I think in the summer I go offshore, and it's weird because everything is kind of flat. I mean, because I moved up, I still have my house in St. Augustine, but now I'm living in Jacksonville, and it's I launch out and it's like 100 feet, you know, for like 70 miles. Like it's just crazy, and it's all sand, and you just look for wrecks. And you know, out on the West Coast, it's like if you went 5 miles offshore. I mean, you're in thousands of feet of water.
Yeah, it take
like,
and you get it's a little bit better on our Gulf Coast. You don't got to go as far, but yeah, here on the East Coast, it's a long way to get to where you want to go if you're really trying to find some depth to get on wahoo or mahi or something like that. Yeah, you got a long ride to make. You done any cobia fishing this year?
We looked. You know what? The first, me and my buddy went offshore. As he's living out here too, and we went to some wreck out there. And the very first time we went offshore, and we dropped one of the jigs. I think it was one of our 60-gram jigs. And the first fish we got was a cobia.
No kidding.
And this was in the winter. We haven't caught one since.
Well, so no, they're here now. Yeah, now's the time. So you're going around, and we just did this a couple weeks ago. And you're looking for those big manta rays. Yeah, so they're swimming right on top of the water, and those cobia will sit up either right underneath them or right on top of them. So you're just cruising. Are you familiar with the rip out there where the St. John's and the ocean meet? I mean, it's almost a perfect line. You can see as you're going out. Those manta rays will just follow that line right there, and you're just cruising that until you see the ray, and you're pitching up under them. You throw them a couple times, you either hook up or you don't. But it's a very interesting way to fish. It's like blitz fishing. I mean, you have 2 or 3 guys on the boat. Everybody's running around each other trying to get one of these cobia. And man, they are some of the best eating fish you can get over here.
What I hear. So I haven't looked for them. We were planning on it. So it's like, I haven't hunted them specifically yet. So that's next.
Yeah, and you can do this right off the beach, a mile or 2 off the beach, and find these rays. And they're easy to spot because they're right on top of the water. They're 9 or 10 feet across. I mean, these things are massive. And even if you're not getting on the fish, it's just a beautiful thing to watch. These majestic creatures coming through the water. But yeah, a lot of guys, if you're here in St. Augustine fishing, you're just cruising the beaches. Jacksonville's a little bit different with the rip right there. But mainly you're fishing for these guys. A lot of times, the kingfish will start rolling in right now in the same areas. But yeah, you catch those rays, there's a good chance you've got a cobia or 2 hanging up underneath them.
Yeah, it's definitely on the list, man. Because the one we caught, we weren't sure about the reg, so we just let it go. I'm pretty sure it was legal. It's a 36, right? Is I think the limit, and I'm pretty sure it was a 36 inch. But we were like, man, just cut it loose. Who knows? We don't want to get stuck, with something we're not sure of.
It's like the rules change almost every year, So
and then the snapper season. Snapper's just brutal, man. It's like the offshore. We're thinking, we're gonna go catch some snapper. Like you got 2 days.
You're right.
Last year was 2 days.
And then you fight through them the rest of the year. It makes no sense. That one drives us crazy more than any of the other ones right there.
The worst part about it too is like we go offshore and we catch snapper like all the time, all day. I'm like,
you have to fight through them.
Yeah. And it's like, why are these so protected?
I don't know. It's a great question.
And we're pulling up giants, and having to descend them. And it's like,
right.
And it's heartbreaking because you're like, how many of these are living, and it's just like, even though you send them down, they get bad barrel trauma, and it's tough.
Yeah, man. No, it's not good, man. And I think we're doing more harm than good than opening it up a little bit. Let's get some of these fish out of there. And the rest of the year, you're not killing off half of them that you catch because they're not getting back down. Yeah.
And there's even the ones that do, they probably just get smoked by a shark halfway down.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking, man. Letting some of these go, just aren't even going to make it. It's even if you descend them and take care of them, they got maybe a 50-50 shot they're going to get in.
Yeah.
But I know the Gulf Coast just recently they've had
they did.
They extended it a lot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They're making some better decisions there. And again, I don't know what's with the snapper. It doesn't make sense to anybody in the industry, and just one of those things we got to deal with for now.
Yeah, it's everywhere, man. Cow caught or some stuff out in the West Coast. It's the same thing. They're these big giant rockfish, and they're protected. But they opened up actually the rock fishing grounds in California where you can kind of fish them anywhere now. It used to be like really localized, and they have a protected zone for the cow cod. But we've been fishing out like miles outside that zone and just catching them left and right. You're just like, and it's like the snapper. You're like, why?
Yeah,
they don't let you. But they're no take. You can't. There's not even a season. There's not even a day.
Really? I didn't realize that.
They shut it off. Yeah. And they're talking about like maybe letting 1 or 2. It's in the works. I think they're going to maybe open it up again. But it's been closed like, 20, 30 years where they haven't been able to fish them. And but they're wild, man. And they're so big. They're just destroying. They got to be destroying the ecosystem because
Sure.
they're unchecked and they eat the other rockfish. So it's like, what do you think they're doing? That's why we're catching so many. They're just smoking all these other fish. You know?
Yeah.
They're not being regulated. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just wild. Have you guys, you know what, you guys should look into, I mean, rock fishing is probably a good niche for you guys with the fish bites. I mean, that's like a perfect.
We have had some good feedback on that. Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where we've, you know, the shows we have been out there, whether it's the PCS show or the bark hole shows, I mean, it's almost like we'll sell some baits and these guys will come back the next day to get more, but the word just doesn't seem to spread out there like it has in other areas for us. But yeah, rock fishing was one of the first, and I had no idea what a rockfish was my first trip out there. But that's what some of the guys from the shops over there were saying is that should be, as you said, a good area for us. But man, I didn't know that they were so regulated either. So people are still out there targeting them. They just have to release them. That's what you guys are doing.
Well, the rockfish, it's just the cowcod specific. So the rockfish are very similar to the snapper. There's many varieties. You know how there's the vermilion, the red, the lane snapper out here. In California, there's like, it's not just California, it's Washington, it's the whole West Coast. There's like 170 like different species of rockfish, and there's some that are just off limits, and you usually don't run into them. But then it's a pretty good bag. I think you can keep like 10. You can keep like 2 of certain kinds of vermilion. I gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. And now what are they hitting on over there for the most part?
So they're fun fish. So the great thing about them is that many party boats just go out there to catch them. They're some of the best eating fish. Fish tacos, like in California, you get is almost always like rockfish and stuff. Okay. But they live on the bottom. They live on rocks. They live on structure. They just hang tight to the bottom. So they're actually really good jig fish. And then they eat most people. So we use slow pitch jigs. They'll eat a 600-gram jig, you know, that's this big. Wow. But they also, most people are doing like the bait. They put on a weight with a dropper loop and put on a piece of cut bait, squid or something, you know, 2-3 feet up from the weight. I mean, and let it dangle there, and you just kind of bounce it and they'll come up and eat it. They'll eat almost anything, you know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You know, like I said, we got that squid scent, so we just got to get it in the right hands, man. Is really what it's about.
Squid would probably be money.
What's that?
The squid, I think, would be money because squid is
I would think so too. That's we've got the most feedback on the squid more than anything else over there. But yeah, again, we just got to go out, target the right areas, get it in the right hands. It'll eventually catch on.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you're saying, it's like so one thing I always preach about fishing artificials too, is like one thing I hate about bait is you send it down. So sometimes people are fishing rockfish. Like, we won some tournaments. Actually, I think it was last year, the year before, we did really well in rockfish tournaments, but we're fishing 700 feet, 600, 750 feet deep on the reg. And even regularly, you can catch them like within 70 feet, right? But now they're starting to fish. They've opened it up so you can fish deeper. And so if you're using bait, it doesn't make sense to me because you can lose that bait halfway down and you wouldn't know. And then you're down there and you're not fishing. You're just bouncing a weight around with an empty hook on it. Anything can take it off, a bonito, a mackerel, or it just flies off because it's soft. And you don't want to be reeling up 750 feet every single time to check your bait. And so you leave it down there and I see people reel it up and there's nothing on there. It's like, how long do you think you've had nothing on that hook?
That's,
15 minutes not fishing.
Yeah. Right. So that's the same point I was making with the surf fishing and having it on. I can't imagine 700 yards. I mean, that sounds wild right there. But yeah, that is the beauty of fish bites. The strip pieces that we showed earlier, for those that don't know, there's a piece of mesh that runs down the middle of it. So they're incredibly durable. So you're not getting one bite on those baits. I mean, you're catching multiple fish on those baits. And again, you're never fishing on credit. So you can put, a chunk of our squid. Right? There you go. Yeah. Yeah, so you can put a chunk of
layer.
our squid scent on with a piece of squid. And if they snatch that squid off, you still got that fish bites on there. It'll be there for you. So that really is the beauty of it. And gosh, if you're fishing in 700 feet, then you're going to want something with some durability on that hook. So you're not fishing with just a hook.
Yeah, that's what, because that was my whole logic when, I'm slow pitch jigging, and it's like, I know the jig's on there 100% of the time. I can feel it. So it's like, I'm always fishing. Mm-hmm. When you got the bait, there's no way. But the fish bites is sort of the same thing. I mean, if somebody hasn't used it, it's like the durability, like this stuff does not come off. Like you're saying, that cloth or whatever's in there is like, even when the fish stuff is gone, like I have to cut the cloth off because I can't even rip it off the hook. I'm like,
that's it.
It's wild, man. It's super tough.
So that's if we get a complaint, that's it. I got to cut this stuff off. Well, that's our claim to fame is durabilities, and it kind of comes with it. Now we do make a fast acting product, which you're probably familiar with. Not as durable, and it does not have that mesh in the middle of it. But for really cold waters, it can be very effective, and it is still tougher than just a piece of bait. But that's another option for folks if that mesh is an issue for them at all.
Interesting. No, I don't think I've seen that one. So it's this product without the mesh, basically.
Same material that's on the outside of that mesh. We do reinforce it with some types of fiber in there to give it some extra durability. But yeah, it's really just designed for very cold water. It helps get the scent out a little bit faster in that colder water. But yeah, you're not having to fool with the mesh. It comes in a red packaging. If you ever see a red packaging out there, you'll know that's the fast acting product.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, one of the things we've been doing is, so like we sell the jigs, right? I've been tipping the jigs.
Yeah, absolutely.
With fish bites. So what normally we call it tipping, and a lot of times people would use like a piece of squid or a piece of fish, and they put it on the end of the jig, basically to give it some scent. This is just a piece of metal, and it's the one thing it lacks is scent, obviously. So we've been doing with my buddy. We've been going out, just putting a little chunk on if we need that little extra boost, man. We've been having good results, with just little piece of fish bites on the hook.
So, and it's not just the scent, it's the taste. So fish bites not only smells like what it's supposed to smell like, when they bite down on that, it actually tastes like what it smells like. So, you imagine you're throwing a piece of metal down there and they may miss the hook and say, okay, that's not what I was after because they didn't taste anything. Right. But doing what you're doing, they're going to hit that, smell it, and maybe get a little taste of it and come back for it if they do miss that hook. Yeah. What our marketing manager, Mike, will tell the story. If you're driving down the road, you smell some McDonald's French fries and you pull up and you order, it smells good, but tastes like dirt. You're not going to be very happy. So this product actually smells like what it's supposed to smell like and taste the same as well.
That's wild. And that's just all synthetics. There's no animal product in it.
And the science behind it, what's really interesting is it actually stimulates a fish to eat. So even if this fish isn't hungry, maybe he just filled his belly, there's something in there. And I'm not smart enough to tell you exactly how it works. I can just tell you it does work. And it'll kind of trick a fish that's not hungry into eating or taking a bite of whatever's out there. So it's there's a lot behind it. He spent 30 years on this product and tried to come up with this product. He actually first introduced something in the 80s called gator bait, which was similar to what we're doing. And this is why he was still working at the University of Florida. He retired in the early 90s, and the University of Florida kept all his research. And for whatever reason, they just gave it back to him in 1998. And he went to all his kids and said, who wants to put money into it? And 4 of them did. And here we are today, and it's rock and rolling. So he's had a lot of interesting products. He used to have this thing called the burst worm in the 90s, and it was for freshwater. And it'd come in the package, and you'd have 6 worms in there and a syringe. And each of these worms would have a cavity inside of it. So you take that syringe and you'd squirt this juice into the cavity of this worm. And it was called a burst worm. So they'd hit it, they'd feel, juice come out of this bait that tastes like it's what it's supposed to taste like and smell.
That's wild.
And I can't believe that one never made it. So, but his reasoning for it was fishermen are lazy. They don't want to have to take a syringe and put scent in it each time. So yeah, that one never quite caught on, but yeah, the guy was nothing short of a genius. We've got still, stacks and stacks of research that he's done with some different scents that we're going to eventually bring to market when we can find the time. But it's just been, business has just been crazy. We've had the kind of growth the last 5, 6, 7 years that you can't prepare for. And we try to get ahead, and the orders keep coming in. So it's been tough to try to do anything new, but it is in the plans here. So.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, but it's
sure.
I empathize with that. It's like we're at, I've only been company about 2 years now, but it's even, I have supply issues, I'm getting tackle stores ordering the stuff, and it's like, I don't have enough product, and then it's like, where do I get the money to buy more? And it's a people don't understand that. It's you would think like having all these sales is good, but it's a whole nother layer of
it can turn bad though too. If you can't produce, people are going to look for somebody that can. So it's a good problem to have in a sense, but you don't want it to linger too long because people will get sick of dealing with it.
Yeah, that's 100% true, man. It's kind of sort of the stuff we're learning right now. How do we amp up production and keep people happy, without having shelves sitting empty for a long time? That's it. It's cool though. It's a good problem to have for sure.
Sure.
Man, that's crazy. So you guys use these offshore as well? Do you ever like cast and retrieve, or is it like all kind of bottom fishing stuff? Or
what was the first part?
Do you ever like cast and retrieve on them, or are you using
not so much? It's mostly just dropping down. Yeah, if I'm casting and retrieving anything, it's going to be one of our Fight Club baits. Now you can do what you're doing with your slow pitch jigs. We can do those on a smaller profile bucktail when we're red fishing. We'll kind of just hop them along like that. But yeah, the cut baits themselves don't move real well. But like I said, I put it on a little tiny piece on my top water baits and that kind of thing. But yeah, if I'm really trying to work a big area of water, then I'm throwing some of those swim baits, where it'd be the paddle tail or the curly tail, something like that. But yeah, for the offshore guys, you're just dropping it down like you would a piece of cut squid. We did come out with some bigger offshore pieces now. I don't know if you've seen those. I believe they're 4 inches long and an 1.5 inches wide, something like that. They're a little bit thicker, give it a little bit more durability. Because I've been out there, with our standard easy baits that you showed pictured there, and they can get beat up pretty quick. So if you've got a lot of grunts down there or something like that. So we're trying to get something with a little bit bigger profile, bring in some bigger fish, and these can still work the same way as the other baits. You can cut them down if you need to. Right. Yeah, you're mostly just dropping down, bottom fishing with these squid baits if you're offshore with that.
That's awesome, man. It's good stuff. So you have any fishing trips coming up? You do any fishing? How often do you fish?
I am coming to the end. Well, I'll tell you what, I got some personal fishing trips coming up. The spring is always such a busy time of year for us with all the different tournaments we're involved with. And like I said, we started our own series this year. We just finished up our spring run this past weekend. I just got back in town last night. And now I have a little bit of time to go do some fishing for myself. So we got one of the best fishermen in the area here is our sales manager, Scott Jones. And he's lights out. He can go catch anything, anywhere. So we got some plans to go do some of that. I will be going down to Miami here in a couple of weeks to do the Florida Insider Fishing Report with Rick Murphy, and they've got the peacock bass down there. So I'll go chase those around a little bit while I'm down there. But the kingfisher here, plan on doing that here coming up. That's more of a trolling kind of thing. I bet maybe I might have to pick up some of your jigs for that. We'll give some of those a shot on those kingfish. You got anything that trolls?
People, they say they troll these. You can cast and retrieve them too. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, I'll take some out there. We'll get you some.
I cast and retrieve a lot. They don't have to just be vertical. It's
okay. Yeah, I haven't done that. That's something I haven't done. I have never done any slow pitch jigging like that.
Yeah, so I got to get you out. I got to get you out there.
Yeah.
Take you on my boat. Fun. Show you how it's done. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun.
Let's do it.
It's a blast.
Yeah, I'd love to.
You guys got the And you guys got a big tackle store out there too, right? Like right
We
on
do.
the,
Yeah,
on the
absolutely.
I've been out there. Yeah.
Fishbites Trading Post. We opened it up 3 years ago, something like that. It's been going well. Even better news is they're putting a boat ramp in there right behind the Home Depot, which is right across the street from us. So we plan on expanding that shop by a few thousand more square feet. We got the twice the ice on site, looking at putting in gas there and really making it a one-stop shop for anybody wanting to get out there and fish.
Where can you? What is that like attached to the Matanzas?
What's that? Yeah. It'll feed out into the Matanzas. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I'm trying to think because I've been to that home. I've been to that area like a million times.
So if you go straight back there, there's a marina back there called Cat's Paw where they run a lot of charter boats and people have their boats stored there and they put out there. But yeah, this will be a public ramp kind of across the street from them there. And it's probably still a couple years away from being ready, but we're not going anywhere anytime soon. But the whole Fishbites campus is really blown up. We've got 1, 2, 3 production facilities now, along with our offices. And then, of course, the Fishbites Trading Post, the tackle shop there. And we're always running cool events out of there. Anybody that has a tournament wants to host it there, we're happy to get them set up. And it was something that the St. Augustine area was missing. There's a lot of great tackle shops in the area. Don't get me wrong, but this is kind of a higher end kind of place, really nice place to come into. Everybody's happy to come see you. There are no stupid questions. It can be, if you're new to fishing, it can be kind of intimidating going into a tackle shop and asking what you would think are stupid questions. And, that's not how we do it here. We're happy to help anybody, whether you're a beginner or a lifer. So if you're in the area, come see us.
Yeah. It's good advice, especially for new fishermen. Don't be afraid to just say, I don't know.
Right. Absolutely.
Even when you go in, sometimes people, they kind of will ask you a question and they'll be like, what kind of gear ratio are you looking for? And you're really like, I don't know.
Exactly.
It's.
No, we got some great guys working in there. Probably our most knowledgeable guy in the whole store is this young kid, Noah, who started working for us when he was 14 years old. But this kid is lights out, man. He knows everything about the inshore game, even more so about the offshore game. And he'll answer any question that you can come up with and then explain it into terms that you can understand. You talk about the gear ratios or anything like that. It's a lot of people will come in and just kind of give you an answer and not know why, and he can explain all that stuff to you. So yeah, a lot of great guys in there. Marty, me, Hal, Brett, Noah, John, they're all great guys. And anybody in the area listening, just come by and see us and we'll answer any questions you have for you. That's
awesome. So somebody, I'm newer to, I've lived out here about 6 months now, 7 months, full-time Floridian. Is there any place like I have to go try? I got to go fish or a fish.
Gotta go fish. Well, I'll tell you, man, it depends on what you want to do. I'm more of an inshore.
I'm down for anything.
Yeah, I'm more of an inshore and surf guy. Have you done any surf fishing when the fish have been here?
Very little. We're actually going out with Kathy.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to go on her little charter. She's going to take us out. So
awesome. Yeah. So we'll, that's something you do. We're right at the end of our year here for the Pompano. There's still a few scattered around. But when we get into the fall, there's some places up in Jacksonville where, and we'll get my good buddy Chip Brundage, the sinker guy. He makes Sputnik sinkers. This guy will put you on some fish. So we'll get you up there. We'll get a limit of redfish. We'll get a limit of pompano, all the whiting your heart desires. And that's something you'll want to do. Just being from California to see how we do it over here. I think you'd find that very interesting. I'm more into, if I'm not surf fishing, I love kayak fishing or getting in a boat that I can get into some real skinny water and sight fish, redfish or snook and that kind of thing. It's more like a hunt than just sitting there baiting and waiting like we do on the beach or a lot of times you guys will do offshore. So we can go crawl around in some skiddy water and watch these redfish tailing. When we get these flood tides come in and these fish are all up on the grass and their tails are just sticking straight out of the water, there's nothing like it. So those are definitely two things. You gotten on any tarpon yet?
I haven't yet,
That's another one you want to do. And like I said, my guy Scott will get you on them.
Yeah, my buddy got on some. So my my buddy Kevin, who reps our stuff in California, he was staying out here at my house before I moved out here, and he got on some tarpon just like 10 minutes away from here. He had him on video.
Yeah.
I think he lost it, man, but it was jumping in the air.
Oh, you
He
got
hooked
to
it
have the
up
right
there.
material. Yeah, for sure. They will snap you off because, as you said, they jump 2 or 3 times before you get into the boat, and they will snap your line or shake that hook in a heartbeat if you don't have the right gear out there. And I can't tell you how many times I've been red fishing or trout fishing or something like that, and I'll hook into a tarpon, and you just don't have the right stuff, and they'll either spoil you or you just break them off because there ain't no chance of getting those guys in.
When I first moved out here, I took my kayak out and I went under some bridge and I was slow pitching one of my 60 grams and I got hit by something and I was only had 15-pound test and it just almost spooled me out. I fought this thing like 5 minutes. I don't know what it was. I never saw it. Eventually I broke off.
Were you under the Lions Bridge?
The Heart Bridge.
You were up in Jacks, yeah. There ain't no telling what's under those bridges, man. I mean, you could have groupers sitting under there.
There's probably a bull red or something. It kind of felt like
and they got plenty of bull reds over there too. Yep.
And I'll never know, but it was the one that got away.
You never know. That's the beauty of it.
And that's what I learned. It's like in California, we do a lot of bay fishing, but it's spotted bay bass are the big thing out there, and then there's some halibut and stuff. But the inshore fish. You don't get like out here, the inshore fishing is wild. The fact that you can run into a tarpon or a bull red. Oh yeah. That stuff doesn't exist in the bays of California. They have it offshore. And if you go to the kelp beds, but they don't come into they don't come into 20 feet of water, 10 feet of water like these guys.
Right. Those tarpon can be in 4 feet of water.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite kind of fishing right there. Just being in skinny water and seeing a fish, casting at it and hitting it. That it's interesting. You brought up the spotted bay bass. That we've had probably more feedback on that particular fish out in California than anything else with our Fight Club baits, with the jerk bait, the brawler, or even the paddle tails. We've gotten a lot of content from guys out there, but again, it just stops. We get a good run of it, and then we don't have many stores out there yet carrying our product. There's maybe a handful out there, so we just got to get some more exposure, and hopefully this podcast helps a little bit with that. What we'll do today after we get done here, let's set up a little discount code for your followers. Anybody out there in California or wherever that wants to try it, we'll get a little discount code if that helps them give it a shot there. Yeah,
we'll put it in the link, on the YouTube and Spotify link for sure. I'd love that. These guys love spotties, man. It's like anything. It's a hard game. It's hard changing people's habits. That's all fishing.
Oh, absolutely. And there's so many areas like that. I have a guy up in Alaska fishing. He's a surf fishing guide here, in Florida, but in the summer he goes out to California and does the halibut and leading cod and all that stuff. And he took some of our 6-inch grubs out there just last week and his first fishing trip of the year. And he sent me probably 7 or 8 stud halibut that he's getting on this 6-inch grub. But I said, but we need to get that market going. And he's saying the same thing you are. It's hard to get people to change, and especially in areas like that. You got a bunch of old salts out there. They're going to use what they know works. And that's half the battle in fishing is having confidence in whatever you're throwing. And to get people
in Florida,
to
it's been hard getting people away from live bait. Because in California, almost everybody fishes. So in California, everybody fishes artificials anyways, because it's hard to get bait. And in Florida, it's hard to convince people to get away from live bait. Everybody's just like, it's such a big thing out here. It's
well, that's different to me. It's a lot easier to go out there and catch fish on live bait, and it's definitely more of a challenge. But I personally like the challenge. You'll have a hard time getting me to use live bait, unless I'm just getting skunked and everybody else having a good time. Then I may switch over. But I'm going to go out there first and foremost. First thing, I'm going all artificial, challenge 100%. Myself a little bit, and then if I need to move over, I'll move over. But majority of the time, I can keep up with the guys. Using all
I agree too. Once you figure it out, I think artificials are just as good. You can control it, you can't really control a live bait, but you can control what an artificial does. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome. All right, Brett, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I really appreciate you coming on. Where can the guys find you, or where should they look for you?
You can find me direct on Facebook. If you guys have any questions, you can message me direct. I'm Fishbites Brett on Facebook. But Fishbites in general, fishbites.com. You can take a look at all of our products there. We're on Instagram. if you got an email or anything like that, info@fishbites, I'll get that email and respond to you. But yeah, we'll get you guys a little discount code set up and hopefully get some of you guys trying the product. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Awesome, man. Really appreciate you. And I'm gonna have to come by and see you again. We got to get out.
Yeah,
fishing
come by and see
sometime.
us. Let's get some fishing trips set up, man.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
All right, thanks,
Brett,
man.
thanks for
Appreciate
coming
you
on,
having us.
You too.
All right.
Bye.